Welcome to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so Skip, Shannon, let's get to it.
Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. I'm Jenny Taft with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. I hope you both had a nice weekend. How are you doing today, though?
I was having a great weekend till last night.
Oh, but guess what? Hey, welcome back, Jenny.
Thank you.
Back. You finally are off the hook. You and your man finally have the excuse that you needed. We don't have Rondo. It's over. It's okay.
Yeah, whatever. You know good well that's not going to fly.
Here we go.
So you were feeling good, Shannon, until that breaking news last night that Skip alluded to, and that is that Rajon Rondo has fractured his thumb during practice. The Lakers guard is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks, according to reports. So, Shannon, how big of a loss is this for LeBron?
Well, Skip, it's a big loss because we'd already lost Avery Bradley. Remember, Avery Bradley's playing about 25 minutes a night. Rondo plays 18 to 20 minutes a night. So that's 45 minutes that we've lost. Avery was a starter. Rondo comes in with the second unit, and he was one of the few guys, Skip, that could get the offense going. And that's something that LeBron James has struggled with in his playoff career, that when he left the court, finding someone that can initiate offense, that can keep the offense flowing when he sat down. And so, Skip, this is going to hurt. The playoff Rondo, Skip, is real. He's one of the few players that once the playoffs roll around, his points, his rebound, assists, those numbers go up. There are very few people that can actually say that come playoff time, when the games are heightened, when the intensity is heightened, and people are playing for keeps, his number increases. So it's definitely going to hurt. I think the thing is now, so you're going to ask Caldwell Pope to play a couple of extra minutes. You're going to ask Danny Green. They did add J.R. Smith and Dion Waiters. So I think that lessens the blow somewhat, but none of those guys are what we call point guard position. That's what Rondo is. Rondo is an old school point guard. Rondo is a Jason Kidd, John Stockton type of a point guard. He's more looking to distribute the basketball than score the basketball. Now, he was taking some threes, Skip. He can get to the basket, but that's really not his game. His game is to get everybody else involved in the offense. So, Skip, that does hurt. It says he's expected to be back 6 to 8 weeks, so meaning theoretically he could return the second round of the playoffs, Skip, but it's not looking good. And if I'm not mistaken, Skip, he's hurt this. I don't know if it's the same hand, but he's had this injury before. So this hurts. This hurts a lot. But we won't be deterred. Ain't no, hey, Skip, McMahon Whitehead said, ain't no stopping us now. We here. We here. We don't do no excuse. We're not in excuse biz. We get it done or we don't. And don't is not in our vocabulary, so it's getting done, even shorthanded.
So, help me out here, Mr. Sharpe, or as I call you, Shannon Sharpe. Haven't you told me for 4 straight years that your man is the GOAT?
Yeah.
And for 4 straight years, I've waited to get struck by lightning right through the ceiling because you can't go there when we're talking about that man in Chicago, that ghost, as LeBron calls him.
Should.
Okay, so if in fact he is the GOAT, how could you be so upset about the loss of an Avery Bradley or a Rajon Rondo? How could you really care about 2 guys who are just guys, who are the equivalent of barnyard chickens and pigs? They're barnyard chickens and pigs when it comes to the GOAT.
So in other words, you're saying they're just garden variety. They're just players.
They're both garden variety, and I will make this case right off the top. I will give you Avery Bradley. I will not give you Rondo. I do respect Avery Bradley, and will give you it's a much bigger loss than Rondo because Avery Bradley was a starter.
Yeah.
Avery Bradley has made the all-defensive team twice in his career. Avery Bradley was the difference maker in the one game you did win against the Clippers when he made 6 threes and he made 4 just in the third quarter while LeBron was scoring a grand total of 0 in the third quarter. Yeah. And he tilted the playing field in favor of the Lakers. So that guy you might miss quite a bit. This guy you will not miss at all because we're talking about, as you just detailed, the backup point guard, correct? Why should the GOAT need a backup?
Man, stop playing.
No, seriously. Okay, let's talk about the real GOAT, not the phony GOAT. Go back. I dare anybody out there right now. You can Google this. Go back and look at the roster of the 1998 Chicago Bulls and show me the backup SG as in shooting guard. Show me of all the players listed on that roster, who else was an SG besides that guy? You know how many were SGs on that roster? None. There was no other listed shooting guard on that roster because he did not need a backup. He did not have a backup. Nobody ever even thought about, well, who's going to come in when Michael needs a rest? He didn't need a rest.
So in other words, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. He played 48 minutes every game, every round of the playoffs.
He played 40-something every game, and in the game of his career, the walk-off game of his career, Game 6 at Utah in 1998, as we saw in The Last Dance just recently on ESPN.
Yeah.
In that game, he played 44 minutes. He scored 45 points. That included the steal that led to the game-winning jump shot over Brian Russell at Utah that just opened and then closed the mouths of all the Utah fans.
Okay, he played 44 minutes in that game. So the other 4 minutes, they were playing with 4 players, or did they have someone to come on the court and fill that role?
That nobody could fill that role.
Skip,
They would let Scotty try to bring it up and play.
Skip, he led the team in assists every championship that they won. He led them in assists. What do you mean?
They didn't really have a point guard because everybody brought it up.
Well,
Ron Harper brought it up.
Scottie Pippen was considered the point forward. You know that. He led the team in assists every championship that they won. That was not Michael. That was Scottie.
I just want to remind everybody that Michael Jordan played 82 games, all 82, 9 times, and he played 80-plus games 11 times. LeBron James has played 82 games 1 time in his whole career.
Right.
And yet, now is his time because he got the all-time basketball gods break. The basketball gods said, let there be championship number 4 for LeBron James. Here, LeBron, we're going to hand you an unprecedented 5-month break before you have to play another game as your season winds down, which is your 17th
Hell, he
season.
had it to everybody else, too.
Okay, but who needed it more than that guy, the faux 23?
No, he didn't, Skip.
Yeah. Who needed it more than that guy?
You saw the way he was playing.
He played great, but he was on fumes. And God knows, in his 17th year, he was highly susceptible at that point to some sort of groin pull. And the God said, no, you need a big break this time. You need a pandemic break. You need a quarantine break. And he got it. He got the break of his life. He got 5 months between what's virtually the end of the regular season. I know they're going to play 8 games, just like practice kind of games, just to get back in the groove a little bit. They've got a 5.5-game lead. Do you think they're going to lose it without Rajon Rondo?
No.
No, they're not going to lose it. The Clippers would have to go 8-0, and they would have to win only 3 games.
Right.
Okay, even if they won 3, I think they would still win it.
Well, Skip, they still have Caruso. Caruso does play the point a lot. Quinn Cook, he might be called on. But, Skip, I just think the thing is that you were hoping to go into everybody was hoping to go in at full strength. Everybody's saying, okay, we got, as you mentioned, we got 5 months off. And then one of our guys decides, says, you know what, my health and my family is more important. I'm not coming back. And the other guy, the first day of practice, breaks his thumb. So for me, Skip, I mean, that's not, no one anticipated that. Everybody says, we're healthy. We're as healthy as we've been. And then one day in the practice, you lose that guy. LeBron has had this before. You remember? Now, just imagine if Jordan would have lost Scottie and Dennis Rodman at any point in time in the playoffs. They're not winning that championship. If he had lost...
I don't know about that. With that guy, he was a dynamo. I've never seen anything like it before. I wouldn't have put it past him at all.
I would have put it past him.
So, again, we're talking about winning the finals without 2 stars. Because they just lost Kevin Love and then lost Kyrie just before overtime, in overtime of Game 1.
Correct.
They went up 2-1. I appreciate you bringing this up. They're up 2-1. Game 4 is in the King's Castle.
Right.
It's in LeBron's house in Cleveland, Ohio. And I'm thinking, LeBron, this is going to be your greatest achievement because those were the Golden State Warriors before they were really the capital WARRIORS.
Yeah, that was 67 and 15.
They still weren't sure who they were because they weren't sure about their rotation. They weren't sure how good or how great Steph really was. And what happened? He started shrinking, as he often does in the playoffs. And all of a sudden, LeBron had them on the ropes and on the run because nobody could guard him. It was the greatest stretch of his basketball life. You know it, and I know. Those 3 games, he got a little bit of help in game 2 from Little Delly.
Yeah,
he went to the Delly counter.
Exactly.
Right? And Delly made a play and a shot at the end of the game. He did. But LeBron was stupendous. He was, dare I say, goatish in those first 3 games. He put that team on his broad shoulders and said, here we go. I'm going to dribble this ball until there's no air left in it, but I'm going to pull this off. He played point guard. He played point forward. He played center. He played everything. Yeah. And it was one of the all-time masterpieces until game 4. And then Steve Kerr made the move of moves. I guess he inserted Iguodala into the starting lineup.
Stumbled upon it.
Maybe he stumbled upon it. But Iggy took that guy, and Iggy started making shots, and Iggy scored 20 himself in game 4. And LeBron went, what was it, 8 of 22?
Yeah, like 22. He didn't have many.
Yeah, and he made 4 of 8 free throws and was like 1 of 8 from the three-point line. He had a bad game. And I was told on the other show I did by many of the analysts, he ran out of gas. I thought he was in the best shape of anybody in basketball because he spends $2 million a year on his fitness.
He does, but nobody is playing at his intensity, is required to do what he does. Now, remember now, as you mentioned, yes, he's playing point guard, but he's also having to defend. He's also having to run the entire offense, bringing the ball up every single time, doing all what he was asked to do while playing 45, 46, sometimes the entirety of the ball game.
Okay, so let's look hard at who is Rondo and what is Rondo. Do you realize he's on his 6th team in 7 seasons?
Yeah.
What does that tell you? A lot of people just say, no. No. Why is that?
We know he can rub some people the wrong way.
He rubs people the wrong way. He does not defend unless he really wants to or needs to. He can't steal the ball. We know that. But as an on-ball defender...
No, that's not what he is.
It's just not in his nature. And his three-point shot, dare I say, comes and mostly goes because he can be and mostly is a liability of a shooter.
Right.
Am I right?
Yes.
He knows how to play. He's a shrewd operator. He's a tough guy. We know that. And he has averaged the 4th most assists in playoff history. Averaged the most. It's 9.3 assists.
Right.
Twice he has led the playoffs in assists with about 12. He had that one big run 2 years ago in New Orleans where he averaged 12 assists. And he went, I think he had some 14 assist games. But the point was that's what he does. So what do I always tell you about your guy? He's the best point guard in basketball. Right. And if he's the fitness freak that you always tell me he is, now that he got 5 months off and he's got 8 practice games to get ready for a playoff run, and it's possible Rondo would come back after the first round series, what's the problem here? Because he doesn't really need a backup in the first round of the playoffs. Can't he play 40, 42, 44, 48 minutes a game if he has to?
No.
Why not?
Because, Skip, nobody plays that many minutes. Jordan in his prime, look it up. He never played 46 minutes a game. He never played 48 minutes a game. You're pushing the upper threshold when you ask a guy to play 42 minutes a game. So, Skip, we saw what happened. LeBron was playing, I think, Kyrie's last year. He was playing 42, 43 minutes a game. They would be up 11, and LeBron, by the time he got to the bench, got the towel, dried off, wiped his head, had a drink, they were up by 2. So he was only getting 90 seconds of a rest time. So you know in the playoffs, that's when teams look to make their runs, especially when the starters leave the court.
Okay. What else do we know about Rondo? He is so often hurt. He is incredibly injury prone. Yeah. Do you realize that's actually... This will be the 3rd. I assume he's going to have some surgery.
Yes.
The 3rd surgery on his right hand, his shooting hand, his dribbling, his strong dribbling.
You need to drink some milk or something.
Well, I don't know what's going on because he fractured the 3rd metacarpal. This is back in 2018 on his right hand. Then he tore a ligament in his right ring finger on his right hand. Now he's broken the thumb on his right hand.
Yep.
So that's 1, 2, third, middle. Which one's the third? The middle, I guess. Okay. So it's 3 in a row. Thumb, forefinger, middle finger.
Right.
He's broken all of them. What does that tell you? That's weird, man. And that's just in 2 years.
Right.
Well, so his right hand has become his Achilles heel, right? Okay, so how can you depend on him? How can you trust that he's really going to be there? And he's so headstrong that I'm not sure he's the best teammate anyway when push comes to shove and it starts to get really stress-filled in the playoffs.
Well, I think the thing is, Skip, obviously, you know, he feels very comfortable. He says, like, look, I've studied you, giving me the game plan. Because Doc Rivers would give him the game plan, says, okay, Rondo, you run it. And, you know, Skip, I think the thing is that when you're trying to establish yourself, he's playing with veteran guys. He got KG. He got the truth, Paul Pierce. He got Ray Allen. And he's, you know, they're big three. He's like, well, let me finagle my way in here, make it a big four.
And he fought constantly with Doc Rivers. And he got thrown out of team film sessions, and he stormed out of them.
Right.
And he was just, ask Doc, he'll just be on, he was difficult to coach.
Yes.
And who was the first player to either, whatever, he posted something about, I'm in the Motel 6 here in the bubble, right?
Yeah.
Motel 6?
Yeah.
People all across this land have lost their jobs, and he's posting about, I'm stuck in a Motel 6?
Right.
We're in a pandemic. It's so disrespectful, but that's Rondo. That's what you're going to get from him. Well, seriously.
Skip, I get it. And people look at it like, well, but Skip, there are some people that's used to living in Motel 6 that's got to go to shelters now. So there's like, man, a shelter. Okay, there's equivalency to this. We can't just start blowing people up because that's the, I mean, you go from, Skip, think about it. LeBron James is going from a $40 million house. So I don't care how elaborate the penthouse is. It's not what he's accustomed to. It's not what these guys are accustomed to.
But none of us are doing anything remotely like we're accustomed to. Am I right?
We might not be doing what we're accustomed to, but we're living where we're accustomed to living.
Okay, kinda, except we're washing everything in and out the door, right?
Yes.
We are spraying, we are scrubbing. It's different now. Everything's changed for everybody, and you have to just make peace with it and go on.
And plus, a lot of these guys got to do things on their own now.
Okay.
Most of these guys have people that do things for them, so now they got to do all that for themselves.
I think people are waiting on them hand and foot 24 hours. Just pick up the phone and you can have anything done. Just say, I need my laundry done or whatever.
They do
right?
have 24-hour concierge.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Which brings me back to the player they call the Caruso.
Yeah,
Alex Caruso.
Yep.
I'm going to give you this. He and LeBron have a little something going on. It's a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of rapport, a little connection.
Yep.
I don't really get it, but they feed off each other pretty well because I'm looking at the numbers. Per 100 possessions, they're a plus 20 point, let's call it a plus 21. That's hot.
Best in the NBA.
Okay, that's very good. And when Rondo played without LeBron, the team was minus 6.8 in overall margin.
So real plus minus is GOAT James, right?
Well, real plus it should be GOAT James, and we shouldn't even be having this conversation. But I can actually make the case that Rondo's a little bit of addition by subtraction. Like, I don't know that you need him.
We need him.
To do what?
To do what he normally does in the playoffs.
Give LeBron 4 minutes off?
No, because Skip, you do realize that normally they started together. They would start the second quarter together.
Okay, I don't know how or why because I would not play them together. Again, without Avery Bradley, now that brings into play JR, brings in Deion Waiters. I get that. KCP, a little more of.
Danny Green.
Okay, Danny Green, a little more of. You can up their minutes a couple each across the board and make up for Avery Bradley. But in the end, is Anthony Davis still okay? As far as we know, he's pretty good, right? Is JaVale still there? And in a little bit of a surprise, I wasn't sure Dwight was going to be there, but is he still there? And he's a force for this team coming off the bench. So are there enough pieces to go win this champ? Sure there are.
Yeah, see, there you go. See, you already done changed the argument. I didn't say there weren't enough pieces.
You were poor-mouthing this. You were saying, oh, woe are we.
No, Skip. We lose two guys that play an average of 45 minutes between the two of them. One's a starter and one is the first guy off the bench. So obviously it's going to hurt. So let's just say I don't know who the starter would be for the Clippers. So let's take the equivalent of Avery Bradley off the Clippers and then the first guy off the bench, which is who? Sweet Lou Williams. You think they miss him?
Sure they would.
Okay, would.
And they almost did miss him.
Okay.
I think he was on the fence, 50-50 play or not play.
So there you go.
Okay, but I think he's going to play. As far as I know, he's going to play. Other than that, you know, it's like Avery Bradley was a starter. I think some people are surprised to even find out, oh, he was a starter?
Yeah, ain't nobody surprised. See, you being over dramatic right now. Oh, Avery Bradley's no one. And now you just told me Avery Bradley saved the day. Now you,
I just told you he's more valuable than Rondo is, especially for how they play basketball. With the GOAT, with quotes around it, as you call him, as the leader of the team. You don't need a Rondo. He's the best point guard in basketball, and he's the fittest player on earth.
You just said the man averages the fourth most assists in playoff history.
Okay, but you don't need that. You've got the best point guard in basketball. Who would you rather have a point guard, LeBron or Rondo right now? Well, obviously it's
you need
LeBron.
backups.
You don't need backups.
Yeah, you do.
He's the youngest. How old is he? 34 now? 5? What is he? 34?
Who, LeBron?
Yeah, I keep thinking
35.
I keep thinking he's 43.
He's 35. Don't worry about it.
Remember, Jordan was 34 in that final go-round in 1998. 34 years of age. He played all 82. He made first-team all-defense, and he led the league in scoring at 34.
If I'm not mistaken...
Do it, LeBron. Suck it up and go.
If I'm not mistaken, that was year 13 for him, right? That's year 17 for us.
Okay.
And we've already got 20,000 more minutes on our wheels than him.
Yeah, but Michael didn't spend $2 million a year on his fitness.
Yeah, he spent $2 million on cigars.
No, he did it with grit and grind.
Man, stop that. Hold on. So what was Tim Grover? I just need to know, what was Tim Grover in this equation?
He did it for free.
No, Tim Grover does not offer services for free. Not even for Michael Jordan, even though Michael is cheap.
He didn't get back rubs and shiatsu or whatever he's getting. I don't know what he's getting.
All you try to do, you try to minimize the man. We're going to be okay. We don't make excuses, but it is a loss. We lose 2 guys that's playing 45 minutes, and we'll see. They're gonna throw the ball up in the air in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we'll see.
Shannon, you weren't going to beat the Clippers with Rondo, so who cares?
So when we beat the Clippers, then what? Oh, it's cakewalk. If LeBron don't win this will be the biggest. So you'll find something else because you know it's going to happen. You know we're going to beat the Clippers, and then you'll find an excuse.
Yep. You have no excuses, and you get no excuses.
Okay.
You got the GOAT.
We don't want any excuses.
You don't seem as confident, Shannon. I feel
I'm very confident.
The tone has shifted.
Nah.
Just a little bit?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I say, oh, GOAT, he got that beard. That thing got a little gray in it.
Really?
They underestimate him. You was looking at that gray, talking about, oh, LeBron is aged.
The bubble is going to test you in different ways.
No mercy.
We got news on 2 fronts involving Native American nicknames in sports. Today, the Washington Redskins have announced that they have retired their nickname, but we don't have any word on what the new name will be, while the Atlanta Braves say they've decided not to change their nickname, but are going to take a close look at their Tomahawk Chop fan celebration. So, Shannon, are you surprised that Dan Snyder finally made the decision to change the name in Washington?
No. And Skip, I said it when it came down, and we started talking about who was requesting that he change this name. I said, Skip, it won't be long now. Because you look at the FedEx, Pepsi, Nike requested name change. Amazon said, we're going to stop selling your merchandise. Walmart, Target says, yeah, we're going to stop selling your merchandise also. Skip, he had no choice. So no matter how much, Skip, and let me pull this up right quick, Skip, because I wrote this, because Daniel Snyder, he like, Skip, you remember what he said? He said this, I think it was like May of 2013.
Yep.
We will never change the name of the team. As a lifelong Redskin fan, and I think that Redskin fans understand the great tradition, what it's all about, what it means. So we feel pretty fortunate to just be working on next season. We will never change the name, and that's simple. Never. You can use caps.
He put it N-E-V-E-R, all caps.
Yeah. A cap, but never caps. Skip, no business can afford to lose $50 or $100 million a year in advertising over an extended period of time without it having long-term ramifications. And that's what, and FedEx says, if you don't change the name, we're taking our name off the stadium. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
And so he had no choice. Skip, he fought it because the people in the beginning that requested it were fans. And he's like, y'all gonna come to the game anyway, so, and I give y'all a couple of months, and y'all forget all about it. We win a game here or there, and you'll be cheering us on again. But when these heavy hitters said, you know what? Change it or else. He had no choice. He thought about it. Well, you know, we're going to look into it. We're going to do what you need to look into. You have a name that people deem is offensive, that's derogatory, and the Native American says it's a slur, it's racist. Okay, what do you need? What internal investigation do you need to give? That you need to look at to say, okay, is it really that? They said it, move on. So, Skip, I am not surprised. Now, I might be a little surprised that it happened so quick. Skip, we're not even 2 weeks. And they're like, yeah, we got a new name. Mm-hmm. But I'm not surprised in the least that it happened because when this is almost $1 trillion in corporations value. And they say, you need to do something with this name or we got to go.
Yep.
He had no choice. Had no choice. And guess what, Skip? All that being said, it was the right thing to do.
It's been the right thing to do for years and years and more years. I have run out of air on national TV saying this is just wrong. No matter how you look at it, whether you consider it just an all-out racial slur or just a derogatory, sort of defamatory term used toward Native Americans that goes way back to the days in which we, as white people, white settlers, white government, declared war on the Native Americans. It's just wrong to use it as the derogatory or racial slur nickname of a National Football League team in our nation's capital. I can't make that up, but it happened. And you know the story, and I don't want to go too much back. The original owner, George Preston Marshall, founder of the pro football team. This was back in Boston days. They were the original, they were called Boston Braves because the baseball team was Boston Braves that they shared a stadium with. Then they moved to Fenway, and they shared occupancy with the Red Sox. And George Preston Marshall, who turned into one of the great bigots in the history of the National Football League, said, wait, let's change
he was already that. He just exposed himself once he gave that name.
Yeah, but later he was the last to integrate. 1962 it took him to. He said, how about, let's see, Red Sox? Let's go from Braves to Redskins. Well, wait a second, that's derogatory. So he goes out and hires a coach who has some sort of Native American ancestry to try to sell it to the populace. And it doesn't work there, at least it didn't sell. And they moved the team to D.C., and you know the rest of the story. So the reason I'm pleasantly shocked by this change so quickly, to your point, is because I went through that period in 2013, 2014, in which we talked about it every day, all day on television, till I couldn't talk anymore about it because it looked like we had reached another turning point. They were going to lose their trademark. The threat was, we will take away your trademark if you don't change your nickname. This is 7 years ago, and then 6 years ago as it kept going on and on. So Dan Snyder went on a national campaign visiting tribal chiefs from D.C. all the way to North Dakota. And he gave reportedly about $4 million to Native American causes. And he came back and got some of his former players to become his mouthpieces. And one of them, Chris Cooley, came on the show I used to do on ESPN and just beat the table about how the Native Americans are not offended by this. And then they got backed up by that Washington Post poll. Remember that? 9 out of 10 Native Americans surveyed. It was 504 total out of about 5 million that we have in our nation. 504, 9 out of 10 say, we're not offended. Well, they were older.
Did they come from the tribe that got that $4 million? Because it was reported, Skip, that he gave that one bulk sum and has given nothing since.
And you're probably right about that. But he kept campaigning. We're honoring Native Americans with this nickname. Well, wait a second. What's the origin of it? I know I grew up watching what were called cowboy and Indian movies, and that was about as derogatory a term as you could use. Those low-down, no-good Redskins, we're going to get them, right? Well, come on. You can't call a pro football team that.
And here's the thing. Skip, if you're from outside the culture, you don't get to determine what's a term of endearment. You don't get to... Well, I'm not Native American, but I think it's a term of endearment, so I'm going to call you that, and it's going to be that. You don't get to decide. The culture from within decides what is a term of endearment.
I'm with you. So then what happened in 2014? We kept waiting for the new change. It got hung up in court, and it hung, and it hung, and it hung, and it went away.
It disappeared.
And he had friends in very high places because he's in D.C. He's in the nation's capital.
Yes.
And now I'm pretty sure he has another friend in a very high place.
Highest of places.
Speaking of chiefs, this is the commander-in-chief, right?
Correct.
And I was assuming that backed by the commander-in-chief right now, he would sort of pay lip service. We're considering changes, and then kind of hope that the Black Lives Matter movement sort of blows over and quietens down, and then he could slip it back under the door again. Oh, we decided it's still okay.
Right.
Right?
Right. He tried, because
he tried.
The president came out and said there's nothing wrong with that name. It's a term.
Okay, but to your point, I just read last night that there was a letter signed by 87 investors and shareholders with a total worth of $620 billion. This letter was sent to FedEx, PepsiCo, and Nike, asking them to stop doing business with the team unless that name was changed. Well, now money is not just talking, it's shrieking, right? And Dan Snyder is getting his ears just pierced by the shriek where he says, uh-oh, now I'm really in trouble. And obviously, one of his minority investors is the FedEx president, and that's the naming rights on the stadium.
FedEx Field.
Okay, you're going to lose the naming rights. Well, you could probably say, well, I'll find somebody who will do it. But after a while, it started to look bad, and then it went to worse because this is what's happening with this country right now. This country is just in a new mood, and it's a great new mood of, hey, that's got to stop. And it started with all the racist symbols and racist behavior. No, we're calling you out. We're taking that down.
Right.
It's that time. And then we turn to the Native American. Well, wait a second. Well, that's the most glaring example of racism against Native Americans to me, as far as a big public glaring example.
Right.
Well, it's like taking that statue down. Let's take that one down too, right?
Yeah, and they should skip. And I think the thing is that Daniel Snyder started to realize if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. CENTS and SEN.
Yep.
It didn't make sense to him, Skip.
Okay.
And they say money talks, but cash screams. So you talk about $620 billion. That's what these companies were worth. And some of these were, you know, FedEx had its name on the building. What are they paying, Skip? $15, $20 million a year? Pepsi probably was in the building. Nike selling their merchandise. Do we need to mention anything about Amazon? Jeff Bezos worth about $200 billion. So he had no choice. I get it now. If he'd lost his copyrights, he probably would have did that earlier, because you and I could have been making Washington shirts and making money off it. And he didn't want that.
Right.
So now he's forced to do this. He has no choice.
Yep.
Now, I was waiting for the other owners to come out, but, you know, they wasn't going to say anything. They was like,
I mean, maybe they did behind the scenes. We don't know.
When Nike and Pepsi and FedEx and all these others came out, he didn't have no choice.
Okay, quick thought on tomahawk chop. Is that the next thing that should go?
No, the Braves, all that should go.
You think
I think Cleveland is probably going to be the next one to change their name.
I would agree with that.
Skip, what's the tomahawk? Because what do they do, Skip? The sound that they make when they make the chop. I don't get it. So I will keep the name and do away with the chop. So I want to know, how do you prevent that, Skip? How do you prevent that in the stadium?
I don't know. You just have to make it an edict. You'd have to make it very public. This will not be tolerated anymore. And they would have to look to throw fans out who tried to start the chop. And after a while, maybe people would just abide by the new rule and just stop it, because they'd be ashamed, because they should be ashamed of taking the tomahawk chop as a symbol. And remember, it started, I'm pretty sure, at Florida State University back in the 80s. They are called the Seminoles.
Right.
Okay. Where did the tomahawk come from? Well, it's to me, it's a racist symbol, or it's a sad symbol of the white people coming into this country, government, settlers, and just declaring war on all Native American tribes all over this country. And some of the early wars were fought in the state of Florida against the Seminoles. And guess who led the charge? The great General Andrew Jackson, who would soon become President of the United States. And this went on his record as a big triumph. He defeated the Seminoles in the state of Florida. And then you know what happened, because we've spoken about it. They became one of the 5 civilized tribes. Well, they were civilized because they got crushed. They got defeated. And they were forced, along with 4 other tribes, to march all the way to what was then called Indian Territory, state of Oklahoma. Oklahoma means red man. and forced to relocate. 10,000 people died on the march. It's called the Trail of Tears.
Right.
Well, that's such a pathetic legacy.
Skip, it's not hard to beat somebody if you got firearms and they got bow and arrows.
Right.
I mean, that's why America wins so many wars. We have so much more artillery than anybody that we're fighting against.
We just had so much more might.
Right.
We had numbers.
Yes.
And yet they fought back.
Of course.
Did they? And once they got guns and horses, they fought back as hard as they could fight, and it went on for years.
Yes.
And there was a lot of bloodshed on both sides.
Yeah, they ambushing. They know the landscape. They know the scape of the land. So they were, ambushing and guerrilla warfare, rightfully so.
So the tomahawk chop was from the war that they lost, a war you're always talking about how the South lost.
Right.
Well, the Native Americans didn't start the war, we did.
Right.
Okay? We also finished the war.
Right.
But this is a symbol of the bloodshed, right?
Yeah.
Come on, it's just a bad idea. And remember when Deion then got drafted by the Falcons and started to play for the Braves, I think he suggested at first to Braves people, you should try this. And what did they accompany it with on the organ? It's a Native American war chant, that song, I don't want to sing it, I probably have to pay for it.
I know exactly
that goes along, that sort of starts it and fuels it. It's disrespectful to their culture. So remember, that is used by the Braves. And I don't have a problem with the Braves nickname. That is honoring who they were.
Right.
They were literally brave.
Right, yeah.
And yet Indians needs to go, but definitely the chop there. And guess where else? Kansas City. They're going
to revisit the Chiefs.
Got it. And I don't know if they'll revisit the nickname or the chop.
I'm trying to think. I don't think they do.
They do the chop.
They do?
Yes, they do. I think it needs to go.
Maybe because we beat them so bad all the time, Skip. I guess that the chop ain't come out.
Maybe.
Maybe that's what happened, Jenny.
Yep.
Makes sense. Guys, I do want to go back to the NBA as the season will resume because LeBron James has decided that he will not have any social justice messages on the back of his jersey. LeBron said that he commended players who would choose to do so, but it's, quote, just something that didn't really seriously resonate with his mission, with my goal. Shannon, are you surprised by this?
No, I'm absolutely not surprised by this, Skip. I think his body of work speaks for itself. I think we've seen what he's done with the Trayvon Martin situation, Skip, wearing the T-shirt, Eric Gardner, I Can't Breathe. We see his initiative, the IPS school. We see his initiative with getting people out to vote. So LeBron James is not a symbolic type of a guy. He's a guy that does the actual work. And I commend all the players, Skip, whether you have Black Lives Matter, say her name, whatever you choose to put on your back of your jersey.
Yep.
I'm not here to judge you or critique you. But for LeBron James, I am not surprised, Skip. And I equate it to this with Skip. For me, I played for Mike Shanahan for 7 years. In all of his years as a head coach, I was the only guy that was not required to come to off-season conditioning. You know why? He says, because I already know what he does. And this guy, I don't need to question his resume when it comes to conditioning. I think LeBron James is one of those guys, you don't need to question his resume when it comes to his causes and what he does for the community and people of color. I think that's unquestioned. Okay. And so for me, I don't have a problem with it. I saw Kyle Korver doing Black Lives Matter. Kyle Korver has been very outspoken that he's been reading up. And he says, you know what? We need to do more. I need to do more. We need to do more as a society, as a white society. We need to hear our black brethren call and come to order. So, Skip, I am not surprised that LeBron James chose this path because, that's a great symbolic gesture. But at the end of the day, LeBron James is about results, and he's been one on the ground getting results. So I am not surprised.
I have a lot to say about this.
Go ahead.
I told you the first day this story broke that there was an approved list, period, end of story.
Yes.
That it hit me the wrong way.
Yeah, you was out front. You didn't like it.
This is the time in the growth of this nation in which personalized freedom of expression should be elevated to the top degree, that it should be encouraged, it should be embraced, especially by the National Basketball Association that has been so forward-thinking, so progressive in this area. And it shocked me and it rocked me that the NBA said, here, this is it, and drew these very strict out-of-bounds lines.
Here's your list.
Here's your list. Now pick one. I do not blame LeBron James for saying, wait a second, I had something I wanted to say, but it's not on your list.
Right.
And LeBron said he did not have any say-so in said list. LeBron James didn't have any say-so?
That's surprising.
What are you talking about? He's the face of your league.
Yeah.
He is your ultimate justice warrior in this league.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick in the other league, but this man, not that he's blazed cap trails, but he has been out front, outspoken from well before Colin Kaepernick first took a knee.
Right.
He has led the charge.
Right.
So you're right. He's got the greatest resume in this day and age that
or
we're in.
Or as we say, equity.
Equity. He's built equity. He does. He's bought insurance on this one.
Yep.
So he can do whatever he chooses to do. But when he says, I wish I'd had some say-so,
right?
You didn't ask him? I thought Chris Paul was in on this because he's the president of the Players Association. So Chris didn't at least pick up the phone and say, Bron, we're thinking about doing this. You got any ideas?
Right.
Wouldn't Adam Silver at least touch base with that man about this?
Because, Skip, like you said, look, this is what we know about the NBA. The NBA and the NBAPA, Skip, they worked hand in hand. And all the protocols and how they were going to go about their business is that, okay, Michelle Roberts, Chris Paul, talking to Adam Silver, going back and forth. And as you said, they give you a list. And they looking at the list, and LeBron looked at the list like, well, this it? It's like your mom sending you to the grocery. Okay, boy, hey, get what's on that list. Don't bring anything else back in this house that ain't on that list. So basically, they told LeBron, this is the list. Don't you add anything to the back of your jersey that's not on this list. LeBron said, forget it.
Okay, forget it. Is it a little bit of LeBron pouting? Maybe a little bit, but it is a very deserved pout in this case. You got to ask him.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get that reaction from him. He is, I'm going to get to this in a minute, he's the one player I personally wanted to see whatever message he chose, because that's the one that would resonate the strongest with me.
Yes.
Okay, so at least you could have made a list of what not to do.
Right.
Like that would be the most you could do is just say, okay, we can't use victims' names because it's going to be a slippery slope of what if we leave somebody out?
Right.
What if somebody doesn't get picked?
Because now you said their death was more important or more tragic.
And some families might be too raw to have you putting their name on their back. I don't know. You'd have to make sure you cleared it.
Even though the
family.
WNBA, I think they're using female victims.
Okay?
If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I think they are.
You would have to draw a line about defamatory, too negative.
No F to police, no F 12.
Okay. And yet, with as I was speaking of our commander-in-chief, I think he would be fair game. If you want to put that on...
You can't put F-45. No. Come on, Skip.
Well, not F, but if you wanted to take issue with his, because he's taking issue with you, so I would call him fair game, but that's debatable.
Right.
Okay, now, that's all you should have done. And Jaylen Brown and Mike Scott, it was like a day later, they said, what is this?
Right.
And Jaylen Brown gave his 3 examples of things he'd already thought of. Personal, individualized freedom of expression. He wanted to say, break the cycle. I'm good with that. Inequality by design. That's deep.
I like that.
Like it. And then this might be your favorite. Results.
Right.
Results. What have you told me? You need to see some results.
That's what I need to see.
No more lip service. No more, we're open to this. You need results.
Right.
Okay, well, those 3 are not on the list right now. Okay? So, good for them. Mike Scott just said they swung and missed on this one. Well, they did. Now, that brings me to LeBron James. I'm going to speak strictly as the white guy over here. I believe white people, above all, needed to see these expressions on the backs of these jerseys, because a lot of white people love this game and admire greatly these athletes who play it, especially that guy. White people needed to constantly be reminded of what your messages are. Maybe, because you told me early on, okay, it's just a lot of talk, it's symbols. What did you say? It's just
symbolic gestures.
It's just symbolic gestures, and you're tired of symbolic. That's you, and that's great, and I respect that. Now I'm talking about me, because I think I have some feel for how white people think.
Absolutely.
They need to. This needs to be driven home. The conversation needs to be kept aflame. It cannot fade. And those messages would mean a lot to white people if I think it's going to be 4 games or so that they would wear them.
Right.
if you keep seeing these.
But you could continue.
You if you want.
Yes, yes.
But remember, it's subliminal. It's subconscious. We need to be bombarded with these messages.
You do, Skip, and it already had started rubbing some white people the wrong way because you saw the senator that sent the email and asked the NBA, well, why don't you put the military? Why don't you put the police?
I got it, but you know that's going to be out there. I'm talking about a majority of white people.
Yes.
I believe a majority, and I don't have a scientific poll, but I believe a majority of white people in this country, for the first time in its history, have opened eyes, minds, maybe even hearts to, aha.
Yes, I agree.
You're going through that?
I agree.
That's happening? Wait, all these unarmed black men and women are getting murdered by white cops? What is that about? And we saw so many white, mostly kids or younger white people out protesting to the point that I kept telling you, some nights I watch the protests, it feels like there are more white people out there than black people.
And they're still.
Okay, and they're still going.
Skip, I think the thing is, and maybe this happened suddenly, but if you look at the NFL says, okay, at the beginning of the year, you tell us the cause because you see the cause for the players put on their cleats.
Yep.
You bring it, you bring your cause to the NFL. They vet it. They let you put it on your shoe moving forward. Skip, if you remember, and I know you remember this, Skip, when it came to the footballs, you know the two guys that went to the NFL says, we want more access to the footballs. We want to be able to handle them. It was two guys. It was Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Yeah. There's a reason why. Sure. Anybody else, they're like, man, get out of here.
Agreed.
But those two guys carried the lion's share of the weight. Okay. And they said, we want to have more access to the footballs because this thing of one day, so now you get to rub the balls down. You get to handle the balls. And sometimes you look at the ball like, damn, that ball like it played with in the 60s. That's because they've handled it so much.
Okay, and I got it. Okay, so in the end, if that guy chooses just to put James on the back of his jersey, I promise you this is going to be the subliminal message to a lot of white people who don't know the nuances of the story, the depth of the story the way you and I know it. You know what it's going to say to them? If he doesn't care enough to put a message on the back of his jersey, maybe I, as a white guy, white woman, shouldn't care either. Maybe he's let it go now. Maybe all that's over now, and I don't want that to happen. He should have been the key to this with his personalized experience. I don't know. He is a very creative thinker. He would have come up with one where I would have said, whoa, hadn't thought of that.
Maybe he wanted more than an athlete on the back.
Maybe he did. And speaking of that, I don't want him now to look like he is just shutting up and dribbling because that's how it's coming. Well, I'm just telling you it's how it's going to come across. Some people are going to say, well, which is the narrative he despises the most. And he fell right into that quote-unquote trap because he got pushed into the trap by his commissioner for not involving him in this process and allowing complete freedom of expression.
Skip, I'm not so sure that every time that he steps to the podium or they ask him a question, and he's going to say, yeah, we're down here to win a championship, but we know about the issues that's going on outside of this bubble that we want to bring resolution to. That seems like that's him. And I'm sure all of the guys will have something to say about this movement and about change that's being brought about.
I hope so, and he definitely will. But I don't, look, he's the one guy who early on, he said very little about Black Lives Matter lately because of his resume. He's already done that. And a lot of times LeBron is LeBron, so it's like, I already did that. Now that everybody's doing it, I don't want to do it now. It's not what I do. I break ground. I'm out front.
I lead. I don't follow.
I lead. But it's been weird to me. So all he's talked about from day one was, I'm all in for basketball. Well, if any other star without his background and resume and track record in this area had done that, I think they would be roundly condemned as, you're so insensitive. This is time for Black Lives Matter. We've seen so many players on the fence, WNBA players on the fence. Should I play and take away from Black Lives Matter?
And a lot of guys said that, Skip, like, we know we probably should not be playing. You've heard some of the WNBA players.
They have.
We know we shouldn't be playing.
Okay, but he never said that. Because he wants to go win this championship. And I don't blame him at all because I also believe he's going to be asked to speak so many times over the next, what is it going to be, like 3 months?
3-4 months,
He'll speak so many times he can use that platform to greatness there. But so far, he said next to nothing. And he wouldn't have gotten away with it if he were anyone but LeBron James, because people would be saying, wait, he's a black superstar and he doesn't seem to care about Black Lives Matter.
Right. As you mentioned, Skip, he built up so much equity in the community.
He has.
With the IPS school, the I Promise school, for Trayvon Martin and Eric Gardner. So, Skip, I think his resume speaks for itself, but I have no concerns that he's going to be very, very outspoken.
No, I got it. But just me, as a white guy, I'm still very disappointed he didn't wear something on his back, and I blame the NBA for that, not him.
And I think the thing, Skip, the reason why he didn't cause a stink, you remember Patrick Beverly tweeted something.
He said, if LeBron's going to play, we're going to play, right?
So he's like, I can't know. Because and then that would give credit, that would give credence to what Bev said. So he's like, you know what? I'm just going to let it lie. You guys do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm still going to have a voice. I'm still going to speak on these issues. So I think that played a role into it too, Skip.
Ooh. Interesting to bring up what Beverly said there. And I agree. I look forward to hearing what LeBron will be saying, because he has so many opportunities coming up to speak on everything that's going on. And when LeBron talks, we all listen. No mercy. The latest reports out of Dallas are that Dak Prescott and the Cowboys are not close to getting a long-term deal done. Former Pro Bowl defensive back D'Angelo Hall said he believes Dak is on the same level as Carson Wentz, Kirk Cousins, and Jared Goff. And since those quarterbacks are all in the low 30s, Hall said Dak would be, quote, extremely happy if he ended up getting $35 million a year. So, Shannon, does D'Angelo have a point?
I'm going to disagree with D. Hall for the simple fact, Skip. The thing that he failed to mention, yes, they are in the low 30s, but all these guys, with the exception of Cousins, had time on the contract. You look at Jared Goff and Wentz. Both of these guys got security with 2 years left. Dak says, so where's my security? I got no years left on my deal. You see, Skip, they can't prorate it. Okay, we did 4-year deals, okay? Each guy did a 4-year deal, which makes it a 6-year deal. Dak Prescott says, I'm completely free. Kirk Cousins got $84 fully guaranteed $1 million because he was totally free. He get to the last year of that deal, they gave him 2 more years at $66 million. They did. Fully guaranteed. So over 5 years, First Cousins is going to get $150 million fully guaranteed dollars. He's like, Dak, like, well, wait a minute. What would Mahomes, Skip, if Mahomes had no years left on his contract? He'd have got more than 45. He'd have got 60, 65. But because he had 2 years left, and theoretically, Kansas City didn't have to do anything for 5 years because they had him at this year, the 5th-year option of 3 years of tags. They say, you know what, Mahomes? We'll give you some security. You give us some flexibility. Dak says, okay. What y'all want me to do? Y'all want me to give y'all some flexibility, but where's the security when I had to play this last season out? Where was that? So Dak's like, nah. How about we split the difference? I'm not saying I'm a homeboy. I'm saying I'm better than Russ. You can argue that, debate that. We can. Split the difference. 40 mil. That's what I'm looking for. Can you interest you in that, Jerry? And plus, it's gonna cost you more now. Cost you extra 15 because you ain't said Black Lives Matter. The longer we go there, it costs the price going up, Skip.
Okay, first of all, to your point, this isn't about 4 years or 5 years. In the end, this is about 30-something million or 40-something million. Dollars talk.
Yeah.
Years are fine. You can go back and forth. And I know there's been a lot of talk about, well, my homeboy took 10 years. Dak, you should at least take half of that. Take 5. Not the issue on the table. And let me say up front, before I launch into all this, nobody has defended and supported Dak Prescott any more than I have sitting right here in this seat against the hate coming from across the table, the cowboy hate that filters down onto Dak Prescott. But I can't defend or support what's happening right now, except to say that I'm hoping against hope that in the next 48 hours, Jerry's longtime mantra, which he first said to me in 1989, which was deadlines make deals. He said it from the start.
Yep.
It's what he learned in the oil field, the oil and gas industry. Deadlines make deals. When it comes to push shove, which way are you going to go? hold your feet to the fire, yes or no, deals get done. So I'm hoping they go right to the 11th hour, the last hour, and somehow there's some little compromise on both sides.
There's going to be a lot of thawing needs to happen, Skip.
Okay, a lot of thawing, because a lot of this has gotten personal,
yes.
and it's bordered into anger and bitterness toward each other.
Yes.
And I think Jerry's a little miffed at Dak, and Dak's probably mad at Jerry. And so now there's bad blood that has brewed now for months.
Right.
This has been going on for over a year. Should have been done a year ago.
Correct.
Thought it was done going up to the start of the season. Do you remember what happened? And again, I hark back to that Yahoo report. Jerry said the day of game one, it was right after the game, opening day game at Jerry World, big victory over the Giants. Dak played great, had a QBR of 94 in that game, just lit it up. But as Shannon said the next day, it's the Giants. That night, Jerry said a deal with Dak is imminent. He had just gotten one done with Zeke. And I told you the day Zeke signed, got 6 years, $90 million. We may talk about that later.
Okay.
I said, that's it. Doors are open. The skids are greased. Here comes Dak down the pike. They're going to get both their 2 stars signed, and here we go as a big springboard into the emotional springboard into the season.
Right.
Didn't happen. Jerry says after the first game, it's imminent. Imminent? Somebody said, Jerry, meaning what? Days. That means we're going to get it done within days. Well, that would mean before game 2, nothing. Right. They go to Washington. He lights it up again. Shannon says on Monday, bad team. Then game 3, back at Jerry World. He lights it up again, and there's no deal. And Shannon tells me, garbage. It's Miami. It was the Dolphins. So Dak has an average QBR in the first 3 games of 90 on a scale of 0 to 100. Led the league after 3 games. Shannon said, nope, not buying it.
Nope.
And Jerry's saying, I'm not buying it. And guess what the agent told Jerry? You better buy it because the deal just changed. We bet on ourselves, and now the dollar's changed. A lot of times, as you well know from your many negotiations, you might arrive at an agreement on the dollars, but now there could be this or that or this. There are a lot of caveats to the deal. You got to cross the T, you got to dot the I, and that's what needs to get done over the last couple of days. But Jerry thought that in the big picture, the dollars had been
We had the money.
upon.
Now we work on the years, but we got the money.
And I'm pretty sure, not completely, but by all reports, it was around $36 million a year. And I don't know if it was 4 or 5 years. I don't know, probably 5 at that point. 36 for 5. At that point, it would have made him the highest paid quarterback or player in football. But we knew what was coming down the pike quickly. Mahomes and now DeSean will come, we think, pretty soon, right?
Correct.
And so the agent for Dak is saying, it's Todd France, CAA, is saying, hey, we need to shoot the moon here. We need to shoot for what Mahomes is going to get. And they projected probably and had an educated guess of 45, and they were correct. So I don't know exactly what they're asking for. 42, 43, somewhere in the low 40s, so they can be in the ballpark when the Mahomes deal got done. Okay, is he deserving? Has he earned the right to be in Mahomes' ballpark?
Come on,
okay, well, I don't think so.
No.
Even I don't think so. And I know Jerry doesn't. And once you jerk the numbers rug right out from under him, the money rug, listen, he is...
Here's the thing.
He's got a bad temper.
If you're in the contract negotiation, you shoot for the stars. If you land on the moon, you're pretty happy.
You're pretty happy.
So Dak says, okay, I'm shooting for the stars. 45, because there was a report that says that 5th year, he wanted to be $48-something million. And you're like, there's no way. And come to find out, 5 years from now, $48 million might be a bargain.
Okay. I don't know if it'd be a bargain, but you could say it'd be fair pay.
I think the thing is, Skip, is because Wentz and Goff gave up 2 years, they got the security that they wanted.
They've been making their money for 2 years.
Skip, they were first-round picks, so one got like $30 million, the other got like 28. Okay, you understand that, Skip. And so Dak says, you know what, Jerry? I tell you what I do. You want me to do what I do half of what Mahomes. He's probably thinking, Skip, now 5 years, $200 million. Skip, I don't see a scenario where he comes in left it, because even if you don't say he's not as good as Mahomes, is he not half as good as Mahomes?
Okay, but just remember this. 3 games, he tore it up.
Yeah, but I told you what was
And
going
then
on.
they tore up the deal.
Yeah.
He said, let's start over. And Jerry said, okay, good luck. And Dak continues to bet on himself for the final 13 games of the year, and he wasn't very good. In those 13 games, my partner across the table, the Hall of Famer, Shannon Sharpe, gave him 7 Fs. Do you remember?
I didn't give him. He earned them.
Okay, he earned 7 Fs according to my partner.
Yeah.
At New Orleans, at Jets, Green Bay.
Yeah, they lost 8 games.
Okay, Buffalo, Chicago, at New England. Oh, I can't even say that.
At Philly.
At Philly. He had a bum shoulder, but he stunk it up.
No, don't do that much in the shoulder, Ben. Don't
Well, he
mention
just
the shoulder.
did. And he ranked by Pro Football Focus over the last 13 games the 15th best quarterback. Well, remember, he went into the year not even making the top 100 as voted upon by the players of the National Football League. He doesn't make a Pro Bowl. He goes 8-8. He stinks it up over the last 13 games, according to you.
Yeah.
I thought Minnesota was great, but that's just me. But they lost. And in the end, it's hard to sell it. It's hard to say, okay, now give me 42, give me 43, give me 48 in the 5th year. It's hard to sell off last year. He bet on himself and he lost. So he early on, it was 2 weeks ago, he accepted the franchise tag.
Right.
I thought it was sort of a desperate PR move to say, okay, I accept what...
No, because we don't want to run the risk of y'all trying to snatch that up from up under us.
Oh,
and
maybe.
So this is what we do. We got you on the hook for 31.5. But let me ask you...
How did you get to be a we with Dak?
No. We in this thing together. Me, Todd, Dak, CA.
Really?
No, I ain't with CA.
Trying to destroy my salary cap.
No. Skip, but let me ask you this. Who do you think's better, Ryan Tannehill or Dak Prescott?
Oh, Dak, clearly.
Ryan Tannehill got $91 million guaranteed with $60 million.
Yep.
$60 million fully guaranteed.
What did Ryan do last year that Dak didn't do? He had a hot run into the playoffs. Right?
Derrick Henry say, can I get my money?
He deserves his money too. But Ryan Tannehill played well enough for them to get 3 deep in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
They won 2 playoff games.
Just imagine, you remember how good Dak looked when he was only having to throw 13, 14 passes a game? His rookie year, when Zeke was running, that offensive line was just mauling people.
Who was the offensive player of the year that year?
It was Dak. But Skip, but hold on. But now you want to talk about Zeke ain't the same running back that he was his rookie year. So hold on, wait a minute. You can't have it both ways.
When they were both cooking, we cooked right into the playoffs at 13-3.
No. You was in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Zeke was cooking.
Oh.
Yeah, you would either job in the kitchen is stirring the pot. Dak was just stirring the pot. He wasn't whipping that thing up. That was Zeke. But Dak deserved his money.
Won that
No, you shouldn't.
Aaron Rodgers' luckiest player in the history of Jerry World.
No, but Skip, you can't ask a guy to give you a discount with security when you did not give him security when he had years left on his contract. You're asking a bit much.
Okay, I'm still hoping against hope. Somehow there's some thawing, and I don't know, deadlines, make deals, and all of a sudden they sit down one last time. They say, you know what, maybe I could compromise this much. And Jerry says, well, if you'll do that, I'll do this. And all of a sudden they say, deal.
What needs to happen in order for a deal to get done? One party needs to be willing to walk.
Well,
who gonna walk, Skip?
Well, you can't. He's tied to them.
No,
now.
but he said, well, I'll play this year under this tag.
Yeah, well, you could do that.
I'll play this year under this tag.
Yeah.
But just want you to know.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
out.
31.4 ain't chicken feed.
It is.
Jeez, deadlines make deals. I'm going to stick with that, Skip. Let's just hold on. Maybe something will get done.
No mercy.
The Eagles announced they will fine DeSean Jackson after the receiver tweeted a fake Adolf Hitler quote. The team acknowledged his apology, but also said that Jackson would not remain on the team if he doesn't, quote, support his words with actions. So, Shannon, are you surprised by this?
I'm not, Skip, and I said I would be very disappointed and very surprised if they suspended him, if they released him, given that they had laid the precedent of actions like this with the Riley Cooper situation. Now, I understand the 2020 climate is a lot different than the 2013 climate.
Yep.
And I think the thing is, Skip, but I think they weighed in and looked at it. This is not going to look good because this is kind of what the Black Lives Matter and this is what people and minorities are fighting for. Saying, hold on, that guy said something and nothing happened. He got fined.
Yep.
Got 5 days off, came back, played well, and got an extension. One guy said something, he gets suspended, he gets released. So I think that played heavily into it because Skip, because Mr. Lurie, the owner of the team, is Jewish. Howie Roseman, the general manager of the team, they're Jewish. So it hit them differently. Skip, and that's what I tell people all the time. When people that's been offended, let's just say, take for me, someone says something that's offensive to me or my race of people, and someone outside says, well, move on. It wasn't that. That's not your call. That's not your call. You don't get to determine how much it should hurt, how soon I should and would move on. But I think the thing is, Skip, and they said they can fine him up to 1 game check, which is $365,000. Had they suspended him for conduct detrimental, that would have been 4 weeks. That would have been about $1.5 million. So for me, Skip, DeSean made a mistake. And why we were the intent. But remember, the intent only matters to the defendant. The person that you offended is equally outraged, whether you meant it or not.
You sound like you went to law school.
Sometimes I feel like I do. Skip, and the thing is that I want my community to be outraged. Because when someone utters the N-word or someone says something offensive to us, we're outraged. So you have to understand the Jewish community. And my thing is in this, and Malcolm, I was a little disappointed in Malcolm Jenkins because he seemed very dismissive. And I didn't like that. Because when someone...
said keep the focus on Black Lives Matter.
Skip, the focus was there. D-Jack took it somewhere else. You can't get mad at... When George Floyd lost his life, when Aubrey died in Brunswick, nobody was mentioning what the Jewish community may or may not have had, what they own or may not have owned. Nobody mentioned that. The fact was, let's get justice. Let's get economic equality. Let's get a move away from systemic and institutional racism. Nobody mentioned the Jewish community. Now the Jewish community comes up and now nobody's talking about Black Lives Matter. Now we got Will Smith and Jada talking about some entanglement. Now we got T.I. and 50 arguing about who the king of rap. I don't give a damn about any of that.
Good for you.
Let's keep focused. Let's stay on track. We arguing and talking about things that don't matter.
Not right now.
How does that get us closer to what we want? All these people ain't protesting about no entanglement. They weren't walking those streets and talking about who's the best rapper of all time. People don't care about that. Can we stay focused? They're hoping that we lose track, that we get sidetracked. And we fell right into it. Now we're talking about what the Jewish community said. That I don't care to stop this. Because that was never what this was about. Let's stay focused. I'm glad the Eagles handled it in the way they did. They should have been outraged. Because if someone says something about my community, I get equally outraged. So I'm glad the Eagles handled it the way they did. I'm glad DeSean has apologized. I believe his apology is sincere. I'm glad Julian Edelman reached out and said, bruh, let's go. I'll take you to the Holocaust Museum. Let's go to the Black History Museum. And let's go share and talk and have very uncomfortable conversations. I'm glad D-Jack went, a 94-year-old guy that I think he was a survivor of the Holocaust. So, Skip, I'm glad it was over Zoom. So I'm glad all this transpired. I'm not surprised that the Eagles handled it this way for the simple fact the precedent had already been established.
Are you barely okay with the fine?
No, he should have gotten fined because that's what they did to Riley Cooper. Now, Skip, obviously the salaries are different, so the fine's going to be heavier.
I got it. So I believe that Jeffrey Lurie chose really the only punishment path he could have chosen and gotten away with, which is a fine.
Correct.
It was the middle ground. It was between nothing and suspension or firing.
Right.
Obviously, these are incredibly unprecedented times. Every time I leave the house, I come home, I think I need to take a swig of Lysol, right? That's what I feel like. That's how unprecedented the times are.
It is.
So step back for a second and think about how unprecedented this situation was. DeSean Jackson, a little too much time on his hands, but he's caught up, swept up in the Black Lives Matter movement. And he's on fire with it. He's maybe a little over-emotional and overzealous, and he's not thinking straight. He's not looking before he leaves. So he posts 3 straight things, the last of which he attributed to Hitler, but wasn't even a Hitler quote. And they all came off as, or could be interpreted as, anti-Semitic. And he's not thinking with the focus completely on Black Lives Matter. He's doing it now at the expense of another group of people who are obviously going to be offended. But the irony is he plays for a team whose owner and GM, as you point out, are Jewish. But more to the point, the owner's production company is just wrapping up a documentary on Hitler. It's impossible. I couldn't make this up. And on Friday, they announce the conclusion of this documentary, that it's ready for air. And I believe they did so just to drive home the point of how much this hurt the owner, and maybe in a different way to sort of shame DeSean a little bit about this is how deeply your owner took this.
Correct.
But the even deeper irony is that the same owner looked the other way in 2013 when a white player on his team uttered the most evil and vile word in the English language at a country western concert in Philadelphia. What? You can't get away with that. Obviously, Michael Vick and DeSean and other black leaders, LeSean, stood up and finally, led by Michael, who just gotten a second chance, and he decided, I guess I got to give this guy a second. Seems like a good dude, was like, you know, and I'm sure he did seem around the locker room like he's a decent dude. No, if you can if you're capable of uttering that, what do you always say about alcohol?
Tell the truth. Drunk kids and angry people.
You got it. He spat out the truth of what his true emotions and feelings were about black people. Okay, for me, that was game over. You're done as a Philadelphia Eagle. I just screamed on national TV, you have to cut bait with that man, because you can't ask your black players to live with him the rest of the year in the locker room. But Michael Vick stood up, and it felt like Jeffrey Lurie looked the other way because they sent him home for a weekend. A weekend? And then he was back, and it was under the Chip Kelly regime, which never seemed to have a lot of use for the black skill players, Okay, so in
especially
the end,
if he had a strong voice.
Yes, if they had a strong voice. And one by one, they were eliminated. Okay, so you've got that irony operating. Well, you did that, Jeffrey. You looked the other way then. How could you punish him? So he took the only road he could barely passably take was, okay, I'll fine him. Is it just one game check, I assume?
Well, I mean, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe it's less than
that's what you could do for conduct, a 1 week's pay for conduct detrimental to the team.
But when DeSean called our man Steven Jackson, he said, hey, man, they're going to fire me. You know, they're going to cut me. That's how scared he was. And in the Eagles statement that they issued, it was last Friday, DeSean understands that in order to remain on the team, he must also commit to supporting his words with actions, and went into all the educational avenues he's got to take now, all the trying to learn more about the Holocaust.
My only thing is, did they ask Riley Cooper?
No, they didn't ask him any of that.
So
Did they ask him to take some African-American studies or some...
Or meet with anybody that came from Jim Crow South or grew up that ancestors were a slave?
They did not.
Interesting. But Skip, look, for me, I just think the thing is that we just have to be careful about what we say and just make sure we're outraged because that community was offended. Skip, I didn't know. Because you remember when LeBron James says, I'm trying to get that Jewish money. Skip, I did not know that was a slur or that was a derogatory term or how they view it as offensive because, you know, that community views like only you look at us and think we only care about money and all that.
Or that we control the world's money.
Right. And so I didn't know. And then Steve, my chief research guy, who's and when I come on air, a lot of what you hear me speak, he's talking like, well, Shannon, I think you should phrase it like this so you don't get in trouble. He said, yes. That's offensive. Well, that's all I needed to hear. Skip, he said it was offensive. So that's what we're asking. So when black people say something is offensive, someone that's outside of the community, don't tell us we shouldn't be offended. Okay, the Jewish community said what DeSean Jackson said was offensive. It was hurtful. Someone outside of that community, don't tell them how they should feel because we don't like people telling us how we should feel.
I agree.
So I keep it 100 with you all the time, every single day. Y'all know where I stand on this. I'm for everybody. I don't pull any punches. I'm for everybody. They were offended. Don't tell them we'll get over it, yada, yada, yada. When we had this and that, let it go. D-Jack apologized. I believe him.
He did. And that's enough.
Listening and learning, and that is, I guess, the theme right now of 2020 for all of us.
No mercy.
Tom Brady tweeted that one of his greatest games he ever played was in 2007 when he threw 4 touchdown passes to Randy Moss. Brady capped the tweet off by suggesting that Moss join him in Tampa, saying Bucs red would look good on Moss. Randy replied saying that he wouldn't make the team with the guys Brady already has. So, Shannon, was Brady being genuine or sarcastic with this invitation?
He's being sarcastic. First of all, Skip, Brady knew there wasn't a chance Randy was coming out of retirement after 8 years. Randy last played in 2012. That was the Super Bowl, Skip, against the Baltimore Ravens. And
Did he play in that?
Yeah. I think he called it. I think he might have called a pass. Randy's 43.
Yeah.
But he's been retired for 8 years.
Yeah.
Randy's not coming out of retirement. What this is, old Tom upset. Randy, let me show you what I can do, because he's been very complimentary of the best quarterback in football, the best player in football, my homeboy. And that kind of rubbed Tom the wrong way, because Tom's like, Randy, you must have forgot. The record, we got the record. You and me and you, 23 touchdowns in a single season. And you up there heaping praise on my homeboy. How you do me like that? Let me come on back down here. Let me show you what you must have forgot. Randy said, nah, I'm good, cuz. I'm going to sit up here and I'm going to talk about how great my homeboy is. I mean, you used to be great, but my homeboy time now, Skip. That is, Skip, that's the revolution. You know how this works. All the great actors, Bogart and Brando, and all the Yul Brynner, all those guys.
I wouldn't put Yul up there.
I'm just saying.
But whatever.
You like Brando?
Yeah,
you like Bogart?
Oh, yes.
Okay, yeah. So you like those guys, but it's a new time now. Now it's Hank's time. It's Denzel and Daniel Day-Lewis.
Okay.
Yeah. So then my homeboy, it's his time to shine. You used to be. What's that? It used to be you told me in the movie about how you go, the actress, she comes downstairs and...
Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah. It's over, Skip.
Yeah.
It's over.
So,
She used to be.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. It's Gloria Swanson. Yes. She's walking out. She's in her Beverly Hills mansion. She thinks she's still in a movie.
Yeah.
And she's done. It's over. Nobody's there. I'm ready for my close-up. There's no close-up. So you're saying... Tom Brady is done.
Tom went down there for Tampa.
On the spiral staircase in Tampa, and he said, I'm ready for my close-up, and everybody said, you're too old. I think they just gave him $50 million.
Maul said, no. The new close-up is for that guy in Kansas City. Action.
By the way, there's nobody today who could carry Brando's coffee cup. When he was right, he was really right.
Yes.
Okay, just for the record. Although Denzel, I gotta say, when Denzel is right, training day right.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
Hey, the Equalizers, I don't know. I
loved him in Malcolm X.
Okay, you could go on and on and on. Okay. What happened last week on this show? For 3 straight days, I had to sit in this seat and express my shock, my disappointment, and my hurt over what is Randy Moss doing to Tom Brady, the quarterback with whom he set very special records in 2007. He's betraying him. He's disrespecting him. He's disowning him. After all they did together, what are you doing? And he did it one day, and I said, Randy, what are you doing? And then he did it the next day, and I said, Randy, what are you doing? And he did it again.
And another.
Boom. He went, Cam in New England, they're going to have so much more fun. The offense is going to be so much more fun to watch. Randy, you were the most electric deep threat in the history of this league. You don't think that was fun to watch in 2007? You set every offensive record known to man.
Whoa. Yeah. He said, that was fun in 2007, but when was the last time we saw that kind of fun offense in New England? When we ever seen them?
He's won some MVPs. Yeah.
But it wasn't fun like the 2007. He said, Cam going to bring that flash
back.
Well,
to your point, when have we seen that kind of fun? I don't know, the 2014 Super Bowl when they came back from 24-14 down in the fourth quarter against the Legion of Boom? Or how about 28-3 down against Atlanta in that Super Bowl? That wasn't fun?
No. What he said is my homeboy with the no looks, the behind the back, running 40 yards for touchdown. That's fun.
What was fun to me was Tom Brady converting 3 straight 3rd and 10s in the cold in overtime in my homeboy's home to win the AFC Championship and go to another Super Bowl with you, which you won with another fourth-quarter game-winning drive.
Skip.
That's fun.
No, Skip. There's a difference between, look, John Stockton have more assists than Magic Johnson, but he ain't have the razzmatazz.
I'll give you that.
So that's what I'm saying. But, yeah, he got 6 Super Bowls, and he got 3 straight completions on 3rd and 10, but that razzmatazz, that Mahomes brain, there you go, take that one.
But Brady can take over games. John Stockton could not take over games. He just couldn't. He was an accessory to Karl Malone.
When we seen Brady take over a game.
Okay, then the next thing I hear is that he says, yeah, Mahomes has a great chance to be the greatest ever.
Yeah.
He was lucky to win his first Super Bowl.
No way.
He threw an interception late in the 3rd quarter, an interception early 4th, and he threw a 3rd and 15 punt pass that he just threw up to nobody, and Tyreek had to come back and wave for a fair catch and catch it.
He should have 2.
2?
He should have 2 Super Bowls. You know it.
Well, Brady made that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, the point is, greatest ever. So Brady goes to 9 Super Bowls in 20 years. This kid is lucky to win 1, and you're saying he could be the greatest ever? It's just so disrespectful. It's shamefully
disrespectful. The man is going to hold on, wait a minute. The man is only going into his 4th year. So you telling me this man wins another Super Bowl MVP, league MVP, he's well on his way.
The 3rd day, he arose from the dead. No, the 3rd day, what happened?
What did he do now?
Randy Moss comes back again, and he triples down, and he says, oh, if I played in my prime with Mahomes, I'd catch 30 touchdowns.
He would.
He still has the record 23 from Tom Brady. Don't go there. Don't do that. You're too good. And again, I'm not taking a shot at Randy Moss because he's not good on TV. He's great, and he's a lightning rod, and he has big opinions. I just didn't like this one because it hurt me. Okay, so how did Tom Brady finally respond? He got him good. He basically, he took the high road. He sort of killed him with kindness, if you will, but it's sarcastic kindness because he talked about that greatest game they played together. It's his signature turning point. You know, what did he call it? His greatest moment.
Yeah.
Well, as he said, I've never played better than I played this one weird night at Buffalo on a Sunday night, and Randy Moss caught 4 touchdown passes from him, and they had the ball 7 straight times to start the game, and they scored 7 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Okay. But at the end of that tweet, he says, hey, Randy, Bucs Red would look good on you. Have a few snaps left, ? And, of course, it puts Randy in a bad spot because, to your point, he hasn't played since 2011, but he hasn't really been a factor since 2009 because at the end he was just kind of a shell of himself and going through the motions with the 49ers. And I think he did catch 1 ball in the Super Bowl.
Caught the ball.
Okay. So the point was it wasn't like 2009. That's 11 years since he's been a significant big-time receiver. And Tom Brady, who's also 43. Remember, when Tom turns 43 on August the 3rd, happy birthday, Ernestine. I got to say that. We're almost there. But August 3rd, he'll turn 43, and they'll both be 43. So they're basically the same age guys. And Tom's saying to him, hey, look at me. I'm still going strong. I'm going to play for 3 more years. And guess what, Randy? I've got a potential Super Bowl team I'm about to play for. And who you got? And, of course, it puts Randy in a bad spot. Really? Come try out for your team? I wouldn't make that team with them boys. I'll take my memories and run with lots of ends because he has to run because he's way done. So Tom got him back, and he got him good. Way to go, Tom.
My homeboy, where is that?
Yeah.
Get on the train, Skip, or get left behind. Get on the train and get left behind.
I think that train just stopped off in Tampa Bay and let him off, and here we go.
My homeboy going back.
Really? He's going back? We got some due on that. Well, he's got a better chance now because he doesn't have to deal with Tampa.
Oh, that's why Tom left. Tom ain't want to deal. He didn't want to deal with my homeboy and L. Jack. He said, I got to get up out of here. L. Jack and them young guns, 25 and younger. Ooh, won't no part of that.
Very different when you think of the age.
No mercy.
Unfortunate news for Lakers fans. Last night, Rajon Rondo fractured his thumb during practice. The Lakers guard is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks, according to reports. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard is joining us now. Chris, how big of a loss is this for LeBron?
Well, I tell you what, at first, your first reaction is that it just doesn't seem to be lining up for the Lakers. I mean, Avery Bradley decides not to play. Dwight Howard goes to Orlando grudgingly. And now you got Rajon Rondo out, and playoff Rondo is real. You go back and look at some of his numbers. He's been tremendous in the playoffs. So my initial reaction was, this is terrible for the Lakers. But then I began to kind of look at it closer and think about it. And it actually might be a situation that could work out for their benefit, because Rondo will be out 6 to 8 weeks. So he should be back for the second round. Mm-hmm. Certainly the conference finals when we think they'll get the Clippers. And during that, I don't think the Lakers, even without Rondo, should lose to any of these teams they meet in the first 2 rounds. And this will give Alex Caruso, Quinn Cook, more time to get acclimated to playoff basketball. So when Rondo gets back, maybe those guys are playing at their premium level. And Rondo, I think with his experience, should be able to step right in and play well. The one series that could give them problems would be Houston. If they get the Rockets in the second round, we already know the Rockets' small ball against the Lakers' size was going to be an interesting matchup. But now we know the perimeter is the Rockets' strength, and you've taken away 2 of the better and more experienced defenders from the Lakers in Avery Bradley and Rondo. That could, the Rockets' speed and their small ball maybe now could give the Lakers more of a problem. But I think they'll survive it, still get to the Clippers in the conference finals, and then Rondo should be back by then.
I agree. But the thing that's concerning for me, Chris, is that you lose basically 45 minutes. You look at Avery Bradley playing 20 minutes, Rondo playing about 20 minutes. And as you mentioned, Rondo is one of the few players in NBA history that increases his points and assists come playoff time. There are very few players that can say, and his rebounding, that he increases all 3 areas when the playoffs are here. And Chris, he's had games in which he scored 40 points in the playoffs. He's had high team assist totals. I mean, he once had 24, 28 assists in a game in 3 quarters. So we know what he represents. Is he that on-ball defender that Avery Bradley is? Patrick Beverley? No, that's not his game. But he is an old-school point guard. He gets his team in and out of plays. He can handle that. He's been there. He's been the starting point guard on a championship team. He's been on a starting point guard on a team that lost. So he's gone deep and made deep playoff runs, and he's a contributor. He understands his role. But as you mentioned, that gives Caruso, that gives Quinn Cook opportunities. I think now the signing of J.R. Smith, the signing of Dion Waiters, we're going to see those guys get more minutes, because how many more minutes can you give Danny Green, Caldwell Pope? I think you want to try to keep those guys in the mid-20s as far as minute plays. And if necessary, they could bump that up to 30. But I think but you know what? As long as we got old Gold James and AD, we're going to be all right. We're all right.
May I interject to say, would both of you just stop it? I am sick and tired of both of you trying to reach and look and prod and probe for excuses for LeBron James. He doesn't need any excuses. He is the best point guard in basketball, and he just got 5 months off to refresh, to reinvigorate for a big playoff run in a bubble in Orlando. He is all in for basketball. This will have no effect. In fact, I can make the case, as I did earlier to Shannon, that Rondo can be addition by subtraction. Sometimes if you stick him in the bubble where you have to be around him 24 hours a day, he rubs everybody wrong and drives everybody crazy. See his early Motel 6 post about, how can I live in this? Oh, stop it. We're in a pandemic. People across this country have lost jobs, Rondo, and you're stuck in the Motel 6 that does it. It looks like about a Motel 12 to me that you're stuck in right
Did they leave the lights on for him?
Yeah, they did. So, Chris, you have to explain to people that Rajon Rondo has been on 6 teams in 7 years for a reason. He's not that valuable. He will not defend all the time. Sometimes when he picks his spots, he can defend, or at least he can disrupt and steal the ball. Mm-hmm. Occasionally, he'll get a hot hand from 3, but it's rarely that he gets hot, because mostly he's a liability of a shooter. Mostly he does what LeBron does at 6 feet, 1 inch tall. I mean, what's the problem? LeBron should be so fresh, so healthy. He can play 40-odd minutes a game from here on out, because that's what Jordan did in Chicago. The closeout game 6, at Utah, one of the great games you'll ever see a man play. He played 44 minutes and scored 45 points, including the hold the pose game winner. That's what the real GOAT did, the phony GOAT. You've got him, and he's got a co-star in Anthony Davis, who I think is really healthy, and he's always beat up. But Rondo's always hurt. Now he's broken his thumb, his forefinger, and his middle finger on his shooting hand all in the last 2 years. So come on. And as you say, he'll probably be back for the second round. So what's the big deal? Avery was a bigger loss than Rondo was.
Skip, I've been on TV with you long enough to know that everything you just said was to set up LeBron, to put the pressure on LeBron, that if he doesn't win it, then there was no excuse. Don't tell me about Rondo. Don't tell me about Avery Bradley, all of that. And look, I mean, look, he's still got Anthony Davis. You're right. He's still got Danny Green, Dwight Howard. He's got a good roster and a good squad. But these losses are significant. And here's the other thing, Skip. I've talked to a few former players who said that as they got older, it took them longer to get going. Now, I'm not saying that'll definitely be the case with LeBron, but guys told me it would take them 20, 25 games to really get going as they got into their late 20s or early 30s. So we'll have to see, does this, time off help LeBron in terms of, we know he's going to be fresh, but is he rusty? Is he fresh and picks off, right where he left off? Or is he rusty and it takes him a little time to get going? At his age, we'll have to wait and see about that.
I'm going to throw this stat, and Chris, you're going to like, you didn't know this. LeBron James has led his team in points, rebounds, and assists 45 times in his playoff career. That's tied with Akeem, Duncan, Magic, Bird, and Jordan combined. That's why you asking this man to play 45, 46 minutes a night, and he's leading his team. Think about the names I just rolled off. He has as many games leading his teams in 3 categories than those Pantheon greats combined. Come on, Skip, stop playing with this man. Put some respect on his name.
But time out. I'm giving in to your phony premise that he's the GOAT. And if he's the GOAT, show me you're the GOAT. Some Rondo or Avery Bradley, they're just guys. They're just hogs.
No.
To the GOAT, it's like they're barnyard chickens and pigs to the GOAT, right? Am I right? They're just things. The GOAT will flourish without Rondo. Now, if you lose Kevin Love and Kyrie, now you're talking. Okay. Yet he had them. He had them dead to rights. Game 4, Kings Palace, Cleveland, Ohio. Where are you, LeBron? You hit the wall. I don't know what happened. I guess you ran out of gas.
Skip, you know how many times in NBA history these also-rans have really been the difference. I mean, Jim Paxson, Steve Kerr hitting, big shots. Even when Ray Allen hit the shot in Miami, he was no longer the all-star Ray Allen. He was at the end of his rope. Shane Battier against Oklahoma City. So
Robert Horry
players, yeah, exactly. They're maybe the greatest example. So these role players have their moments in the finals. And again, Rondo should be back by then. So if the Lakers get that far.
Okay.
I still got the Clippers. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying also, but what does Rondo do best? He assists at the highest level. He's 4th all-time in average assists per game in the playoffs. That's what LeBron does at a much higher level. So what's the problem? What's the issue?
But LeBron can't play 48 minutes a night.
He can play 44 like Jordan did.
Yeah, Skip, that's the problem. The problem is that when you look at LeBron in the playoffs, is when he leaves the court.
Okay, what about the Caruso? That's all. I watch the local Laker games. All I hear is, Caruso, he's in.
But we got to say, Caruso regular season and Caruso when the marbles, all the marbles are on the table and for good, yeah, that's a whole different ball game. So we're going to have to see how this thing plays out.
Maybe he'll be Paxson or Kerr.
There you go. See?
No mercy.
LeBron James has decided that he will not have any social justice messages on the back of his jersey. LeBron said that he commended players who would choose to do so, but it's, quote, just something that didn't really seriously resonate with my mission, with my goal. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard is still with us. So, Chris, I want to ask you first, what is going on here with LeBron saying no to this?
I think there are a few things. One, you notice when he gave the interview to the media in which he said he was going to wear his last name on his jersey, he had the more than an athlete hat on. And LeBron told us everything I do is meant to, for a purpose. I think him wearing that hat and then also saying in the course of that interview, look, I'm still going to speak out on these issues. He even addressed a few during that interview. So I think that shows that LeBron is still going to use this opportunity to address social justice issues, which is the most important thing. Heck, maybe it was more than an athlete that he would have put on his jersey. I think the second thing is that knowing LeBron, my view is that he does not like being dictated to. I'm not saying he can't buy into from a coach or from an authority figure, but I think his general nature is that he doesn't like being dictated to. And I think LeBron, like myself, like Mike Scott, like Jaylen Brown, like thousands, if not millions of other people, when they saw this list, they said, well, when the powers that be give you permission to put certain things on your jersey, doesn't that kind of fly in the face of the spirit of protest? So it just hit me as a little odd that, okay, they're going to be limited to these 20 some odd slogans or words that they can put on their jersey. I know the Players Association had a lot to do with it, but still, I think they did it wrong. I think the Players Association and the league should have said, look, no curse words, but no profanity. But other than that, there's a deadline to let us know what you want on the back of your jersey. And because you need to, have a deadline so you can put them on the jerseys. And then if they saw any words that were untoward, they could have had players change it. But you should have gone that route instead of, I think, giving guys, a list of names they could use. And LeBron said it. He had thought about some things. So it's not like he's against putting the phrase on your jersey. He just didn't like the names they gave. And finally, I'm going to say this. I think the whole purpose of having the word on the back of their jersey is to be thought-provoking. So much so that the journalists after the game will ask you, well, LeBron or Rajon, why did you have this word or this phrase on your jersey? That gives you an opportunity to expound on it in the interview and maybe spark a discussion nationally about something. Whereas this list is pretty innocuous. I mean, justice, equality, respect this. Those aren't going to move the needle. I will say, I think if a white player like Kyle Korver is wearing Black Lives Matter, that is, that's a little more powerful. But having black guys have justice and equality and things like that, I just don't. There are a lot of other things I would have liked to have seen players be able to put on their jersey.
Okay, Chris, I appreciate everything you just said, and I'm going to tell you what I told my partner across the table earlier in this show. I'm so with you about, I was stunned that the NBA, of all progressive, forward-thinking and looking leagues, would limit the freedom of expression at a time in this country in which personalized freedom of expression is crucial to our development, to our progress along racial lines in this country. So now I'm going to speak as just a white guy. And I'm going to tell you what I think a lot of white people would think when they saw those messages. We need those messages. I don't care what Kyle Korver wears. I don't care if he wears Black Lives Matter, because you're looking at it through a different prism than I am. I care what the Black Stars are wearing across the backs of their jerseys. And I especially care what that man, number 23, was going to wear on the back of his, because it would have been clever and creative and powerful. And I needed to see it, and I needed all the white people to continue to see it, because we need to be bombarded with it. Our psyches, our subconscious need to be bombarded with those slogans, those expressions, those messages to keep Black Lives Matter conversation not just going, but aflame. We need constant bombardment all through this time in this bubble in Orlando, because white people obviously look up to Black stars, especially that man, LeBron James. So it crushed me to hear LeBron say, I wish I'd had some say-so. You're kidding me. It's incomprehensible. It's unimaginable that the commissioner, or maybe Chris Paul as the head of the Players Association, wouldn't just pick up the phone and say, LeBron, we need your input. What's up? You know, what are you thinking about this? I'm at a loss. I'm dumbfounded they would cut that man who has been a trailblazer when it comes to, over the years, way before Colin Kaepernick took a knee, that man was taking a public stance on Black Lives Mattering. He helped start the movement before it was a movement. That's the man I needed to hear from. And I don't want white people to sit back and think subliminally, well, wait a second, if LeBron's not going to have a message on his back, maybe it's over now. Maybe Black Lives movement is sort of, it's lost its steam. Maybe it's faded. It can't fade. We've only just begun. In the history of this country, the minds and eyes and maybe even hearts of white people are as open as they've ever been. See white people joining black brothers and sisters protesting all over this country. It's unprecedented, and we need to capitalize on it. And to Shannon's point, as a black man, he's saying, I don't need more symbolic gestures, and I get that. You need results, which, by the way, was one of the expressions Jaylen Brown wanted to wear on his back was results. Got to get them, but you got to start by bombarding the white community with messages that make them sit back and even subliminally think, oh, I'm joining this, my basketball's back, but gee, Jaylen Brown's wearing results. Wonder what that means. Make people think. And all of a sudden, it's like LeBron's unwittingly falling back into that trap of shut up and dribble. It looks like he's just going to shut up and dribble to some white people, and obviously that's not, that narrative offends him the most deeply. So I need him to wear something. If nobody else does, he needs to. And the NBA really dropped the ball on this one by not involving that man.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. And I was talking to Skip earlier today. I was like, the NFL, when you have your cleats for cause, they ask you to get that in so they can vet the foundation, make sure that's a worthy cause, and then they'll allow you to put it on. I believe, and I guess that's what you and Skip are getting at. Vet it. Okay, here, these are some of the things that we would like to have put on the back of our jersey. You can't say, okay, you could have symbols or you could have slogans on the back of your jersey, but here's the slogans that you could have on the back of your jersey. Well, what the hell is that about? You told me I could have what I wanted, and then you told me what I could choose from. It's like my grandparents would take me to the store. Okay, boy, here's $1, but you can only buy this. What? You gave me $1. Let me buy what I want to buy. And so I think, and when LeBron said, I would have liked to have some input. That's okay that I didn't. I think the thing why he didn't push back, Chris, you remember when Patrick Beverley said, LeBron says hoop, we're going to hoop. And I don't think LeBron wanted to get out, well, this was LeBron, because anything that happens in the NBA, everybody says, well, Commissioner Silver ran that by LeBron first anyway. And so I think he tries to really hide, he tries to stay in the background, knowing that he has carries a lot of weight, and his words carry a lot of weight. But I'm not surprised, because I believe LeBron says, I built up equity in this game. You look at my IPS school, you look at my outspokenness on Trayvon Martin, you look at me wearing the T-shirts, I can't breathe. You look at the initiative that I started with voting, and some of the WNBA players and some of the other players that I've got on board with this. He says, my resume when it comes to these kinds of causes is impeccable. It speaks for himself. And so I agree with you, Chris. I believe that every interview and every conversation that he has in that bubble, he's going to start is that, yes, I'm happy to be in the bubble, happy to be back with my team, but we understand what's going on outside of this bubble. There's a cause that's greater than what we're playing for in here, and we're going to see that through.
Yeah, look, I think both of you guys made great points. Skip, and again, I'm looking at it as an African-American. I think some whites, though, get tired of blacks saying justice and equality. I mean, we've been pushing for these things for 400 years. Right. This is not new. And the needle has not moved to the way that it needs to move. And one of the things that has been most encouraging to me in this whole movement is the number of white people who have been involved in these protests. Whites pulling down these Confederate statues. Whites in the military saying we need to change the names of these bases. Look, white people make up 72% of the population. It's rising because now, Shannon, they're including some Hispanics now as white. You notice that. So the population of whites is growing where it was down a little while, like a few years ago. But because of the population, because of the power disparity, the economic disparity, I think it is imperative that white people see white people fighting for justice and equality for blacks. Yeah, like a Kyle Korver and other people I mentioned. That's why we want to hear from Jerry Jones and these other, owners. And look, I think that Adam Silver, I know Adam, I know his heart, I believe. I'm sure he means well. But the optics, we're trying to eradicate white supremacy so that there is racial equality. The optics are that 29 white owners and a white commissioner gave you a list, black guys, that you can put on your jersey. That's where people are feeling like it's just symbolic. And as Shannon said, LeBron is not really about symbolism as much as he's about action. The voting rights campaign, the school, setting up his childhood friends, his agent, and now a business mogul in Maverick Carter. So LeBron's more about action than just symbolism.
Okay, I get you about cliches on the backs of the jerseys, but then Jaylen Brown pipes up the next day and said, I had 3 examples. Inequality by design. That'll make white people think. Break the cycle. Love it. Or Shannon's favorite word, just results. Okay, make people think.
But they didn't have that option.
He didn't have it. No, that's what I'm saying. And I know LeBron would have come up with something that would have made all of the white people sit back and say, interesting. Keep the thought burning. Keep it progressing. Don't let it fade through the bubble time in Orlando.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there are several things I would have liked to see reparations or reparations now on the back of somebody's jersey, or Black Wall Street or HBCUs.
Good.
Journalists would have asked you, why'd you have HBCUs on the back of your jersey?
Love it.
Why Black Wall Street? What is that? Look, I don't know if it's probably too late, but the league, would they have time to rethink this? I mean, I guess the jerseys are made and everything, but justice, equality, respect, I don't think that's going to move the needle.
And think about, Chris, how many more jerseys they would have sold if LeBron James has a slogan, or these guys all have slogans on the back of those jerseys. Because that's gonna be a piece that's gonna have some. Just imagine you go on to win the championship, and in the championship game, the guy that's the MVP or whomever, he has a slogan on the back of his jersey.
No mercy.
Bleacher Report listed who they thought was every NFL team's most overpaid player based on production in 2019, as well as projecting how they will do in 2020. Ezekiel Elliott's average annual salary of $15 million led the way for the Cowboys, and the article cited Zeke's drop-off in rushing yards, averaging only 84 game last season compared to never dipping below 95 in his first 3 seasons in the league. Shannon, do you agree?
No, not even close. Zeke is paid like a top 5 back because Zeke is a top 5 back. Amari's contract. Amari's the most overpaid. He makes $20 million. He's second highest paid behind Julio Jones in the average salary. He's not even close to a top 5 receiver. Not even close. Skip, I look, first of all, and we go back and forth, and I said for me, Julio is the best receiver. And they had my top 3 in the order in which I had them. I had Julio, Mike Thomas, and D Hop. But for somebody to have Julio Jones as the 7th best receiver, Skip, so now I don't even want the list anymore. But Skip, when you look at Amari Cooper, and there's something going on here, because John Gruden got off him. Because what we see is we'll see an incredible high. We'll see a guy go get 202 touchdowns, and then he'll follow that up with 150 on a touchdown, and then he'll get another 100, and then he steps off a cliff. Skip, 0 catches against New England. He had 4 catches on 12 targets against Philly in Week 16. Over the last 7 games, he had 1 total touchdown, average less than 50 yards. And you telling me that's a receiver that deserves $20 million a year? That's not even close. Zeke is a top 5 back, paid like a top 5 back. I can name 8, 9, 10, 11 receivers that I will take right now over Amari Cooper. It's Amari Cooper is the most overpaid on the Cowboys, and it's not close.
Amari, at Jets last year, game you're rooting for up in Mile High in the owner's box, right?
I was.
You're rooting against my Cowboys.
I did.
He has some minor knick-knack injury after his first catch, pulls himself out and doesn't play again, then goes home against Philly and just lights them up the next week. Don't give me that. And then at New England, he waved out of the game because he couldn't get open against Stephon Gilmore.
Locked him up.
He just went over and pouted on the sidelines. I just can't beat him. I can't beat him today. And then at Philly, it's the game of the year. Do or die, sink or swim for the division. Jason Garrett yanked him down the stretch because he was running half-hearted routes. And that guy got $20 million because they were afraid the rival Redskins were going to jump on him and sign him. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. I do agree with that one. And by the way, the harder I looked, I'm glad this question was asked because it made me look hard at these deals last night. Zeke's contract is not that overpaid.
No,
it's not that favorable to Zeke, actually.
No.
It's really not that much compared to DeMarcus Lawrence's contract. I think D. Law's contract is right there with Amari's for the most overpaid because he got 5 years, 105. He got $21 million, so he's a little above Amari. $21 million to Zeke's $15 million a year, and his is 1 year less. That's a 5-year versus a 6-year for Zeke. And the guaranteed money, and it's the one guaranteed at signing, the real guarantee, D-Law got 48 guaranteed to Zeke's 28. Well, it's like twice the contract, right, in the end? And if you look at him compared to the other edge rushers, he's just barely behind at 21. He's barely behind Aaron Donald at 22.5 and then Khalil at 23.5. He's in the ballpark.
It isn't close to those
last year, he was career lows across the board. He was kind of a no-show last year for that kind of money.
And Skip, at least Zeke went to the Pro Bowl.
He did.
And by all metrics, Zeke, when you look at Zeke and you talk to people around the league, Zeke doesn't drop out of the top 5 when it comes to running backs.
No.
Skip, nobody has Amari Cooper in the top 5. I don't believe anybody's going to have, as far as D. Lyman, would have D. Law. But for me, Amari, Skip, not showing up in these big games. And Skip, we've seen that over his career. We'll see incredible highs.
It is why John Gruden said, I can't live with this because his motor doesn't run consistently hot enough for John. And if he can get a first back, which he did, that'll work.
Skip, over 7 games, 1 touchdown, and average less than 50 yards per game over. That's almost half a season.
Okay, but against Philly at home and Minnesota at home, go check those tapes.
Yes.
Because you see top 5, but you can't expand it over the whole year.
Skip, and one general manager said there's something holding him back. One NFL personnel man said he was the best receiver on the market, and I didn't want to sign him.
Okay, now for my biggest, baddest fear of all. If Dak does get $42-ish million, I'm afraid he will be a candidate for most overpaid next year because I don't think he can live up to that kind of money.
I do.
I don't. You do not. You give him Fs every
Hey, he earned those grades. I mean, what kind of professor I would do if I just hand out willy-nilly grades like you didn't deserve it? I mean, I'm a good professor. I give you the assignment.
You flunked him.
Skip, I give you the assignment. I pass out the assignment. You pass it back in. It's my job to critique it.
Oh.
And when I passed out the assignment, 16 assignments.
Okay.
And he failed half of them.
He failed half of them and give him $42 million.
Very inconsistent, Professor Shannon. I feel like it changes every week.
No mercy.
Over the weekend, we got to see Skip's guy, CeeDee Lamb, sporting his number 88 Cowboys jersey for the first time. Oh, I like this picture. I liked it as many times as possible, actually, on social media. Shannon, he looks pretty good in 88, don't you think?
Yeah, everybody look good in the uniform. I ain't seen nobody else that ever look bad in uniform. Now he has to live up to the expectations that Cowboy fans have when players wear that number.
He will.
So we're going to find out. Skip, I mean, you do all that talking right now. Ain't nobody
that caption was for you.
Ain't nobody playing
ready?
Right now.
You ready?
Nobody's playing football right now. We're going to see if he can fill the shoes of Drew Pearson, Michael Irvin, and Dez Bryant. So we about to find out.
You know, there's something about that big 88. It just makes you look bigger and stronger and more dominating. That number 1 that he wanted to wear, it's fine, but it kind of makes you, it kind of littles you out.
You want to wear 10.
I mean, but 10,
D-Hop.
yeah, D-Hop. but it kind of, the 1 and the 0 is too little.
No, it ain't.
We need the big circle of life numbers, 8 and 8, 2 of them.
Well, you know what? All they got to do is put a little hyphen in between there, because that's what their record going to be. 8 and 8.
You think so?
Yeah, that's what he got it for.
I don't think so, because he's the guy who's going to break the 8 and 8 curse.
8 and 8.
Yep.
And who you going to blame that on? Because Jason Garrett up in New York, because you blame, Mr. 8 and 8. When he was born, his mama named him Jason 8 and 8 Garrett. Now, who you going to blame it on when they go 8 and 8?
I'm going to credit Dak Prescott for that, because he's going to have a new deal in 48 hours. That's what's going to happen.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we about to find out. He's going to get a new deal.
We will see. That is it for us. Good stuff, guys. We're back at the same time tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. The Herd is coming up right after us. Have a good one, guys.